Today's episode is targeted to smaller companies that are just looking to attract 5 new customers, 10 new customers, maybe 20 new customers this year, and they have limited funds. Where should they focus? And specifically, how can these companies focus more bottom of funnel in order to maximize traffic coming into your website, build very specific application pages using data from Google Console, studying context, talking to sales in order to get that content right so that you can attract people that are more likely to convert into leads and ultimately sales. While I have you, I want to remind you that the Industrial Marketing Summit is coming up at the end of February, and we'd love for you to join us. There's still some seats left. You can find more information at industrialmarketingsummit.com. Let's do this.
Welcome to Content Marketing Engineered, your source for building trust and generating demand with technical content. Here is your host, Wendy Covey.
Hi, and welcome to Content Marketing Engineered. On each episode, I'll break down an industry trend, challenge, or best practice in reaching technical audiences. You'll meet colleagues, friends, and clients of mine who will stop by to share their stories. And I hope that you leave each episode feeling inspired and ready to take action. Before we jump in, I'd like to give a brief shout out to my agency, True Marketing. True is a full-service agency located in beautiful Austin, Texas, serving highly technical companies. For more information, visit truemarketing.com. And now, on with our podcast. Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Content Marketing Engineered. I'm joined today by Mark Manuel, and he is the co-founder of SiteSonar and also Industrial Marketing, which is an agency. So we'll talk about both of those things. But what you may know Mark for, or you soon will know him for, is being a bottom of the funnel specialist. And we'll talk about what that means. It's strategist, really. Strategy, specialty. You really focus on that bottom of funnel, right, Mark?
Right. Exactly,
Yes.
Wendy. Yep.
So I can't wait to dive into that subject. And I have a ton of questions for you and things we can talk about. I'm sure we're going to fill this half hour in no time. So
Great.
Welcome to the show, Mark.
Thank you very much. It's such a privilege, and I'm so excited to finally be on this podcast. You know, I discovered you on September 11th, 2020. I'm a big fan of Douglas Burdett and the Marketing Book podcast. And when you were first talking about Content Marketing Engineered, I was out walking because of COVID, and I said, wow, this woman really gets it. I follow your career. So this is a tremendous thrill and honor for me. Thank you very much. You know, I'm an entrepreneur, and I tell everybody, I wish I was as smart as some of the marketing people that I meet and listen to. I'm a sales guy, and I'm curious. And for me, it's the intersection of sales and marketing and technology is where real innovation happens. And I see so many really great marketers, but they lose their jobs because the owner says, well, you're not making me any business. And there's a real disconnect between expectations of business owners, salespeople, and marketing people. And so I try to sort of be that sort of bridge. And I've done that my whole life. I graduated from Boston University in 1980. In 1999, I was vice president of a publicly traded dial-up internet company called ZipLink in Lowell, Massachusetts. I could make a little ISP in Austin look like AOL. And, you know, it was really interesting as we were looking at the way the world was changing again. And I was in Internet World, and I went to this seminar put on by a couple of guys from a company called Google. And back in 1999, it was Alta Vista, Lycos, and Yahoo were the dominant search engines. And Google was still sort of the geeks that were using it. That really went mainstream around 2002. And my claim to fame is I came out of that seminar saying what a stupid idea for name of a company. And of course, I'm the biggest Google fan now. So I tell my friends, don't listen to me for investment advice. But I was involved now in the world of technology. And, I was just a complete Google person. And I remember working for AT&T Interactive in 2018. AT&T owned a division called YellowPages.com. And I remember, walking around, and again, this was a transition from traditional Yellow Pages to online. So again, a seam happening, a really change in the business. And the fun thing was I actually sold and developed the first video for AT&T in 2008. And for me, video was a way to, develop trust, to be able to give your story in that 30-second pitch. And so, this has sort of been my journey as I've grown. And then in 2013, I joined a company called thomasnet.com, and Sean Fitzgerald, who's our chief marketing officer, one of the smartest marketers I've ever met, was one of the signed up with HubSpot. And we were actually HubSpot's first platinum partner in the world in 2013. And there were about 1,000 agencies that were HubSpot agencies back then. And I remember having our own partner day, since we were the only platinum partner. We were in a conference room and all the other partners were in another room. But I had a chance to meet with Brian Halligan and Don Marchand, all the executive team. And I'll never forget what Brian said at that time. We were the only company only doing manufacturing. And we would write the content, run the tool, and we never lost a client. And Brian said, HubSpot's an awesome tool, but it's sort of like a shiny helicopter. If you don't have someone that knows how to fly it and put the right fuel in it, you're not going to make any money. And it was so interesting, at that experience at HubSpot. And again, I have Sean to thank for really sort of setting me on this journey. So I love HubSpot. I was really, really curious about the change happening between 2013 and 2017. It seems like back when I first started with HubSpot, everybody downloaded ebooks. And then all of a sudden, we trained a whole sort of age of engineers that if you download an ebook, I'm going to get a call from salespeople. And we know that engineers hate salespeople. So, they would much rather talk to another engineer. So I built this tool called Site Sonar for manufacturers to help identify the anonymous visitor and the intent. And I'll talk more about how that got me into NASA and the AI tool that we're building. But I just thought it was interesting that as an entrepreneur, as I've sort of grown in the business, I am fascinated with engineers and supply chain. And in my whole life, every business I've done, I walk around, I talk to people. I've attended over 200 manufacturing trade shows in the last 12 years, and I've walked through 1,000 manufacturing plants, and I talk to engineers and I talk to salespeople. I want to understand, what their challenges are. But I will never forget, I was at a Fortune 100 aerospace company with 100 of their supply chain people about 7 or 8 years ago. And I asked the woman in charge, I said, how do you pick a supplier? Because my wife and I are really good at Google and Amazon. I know how to use that and how to buy something. How do you pick? And anyway, this woman said to me, Mark, my job is to identify 5 woman-owned AS9100 certification. So when I go to a website, or my intern who doesn't know what that product was, not even an engineer, just to get to the dance floor, she said, if I see an ISO certification like a logo, if I can click on it and validate the cert, then you go to the short list. If I can't, I'll go to the next person. I can't spend time to go look at that. So I always talked about this notion of supply chain optimized website, that if you understand what the supply chain person wants, that's very different than what the engineer wants. You could have the best content on your website, but you're not even going to be considered unless you sort of understand that. And that was an aha moment that I've had, and I can't tell you how I share with a lot of people when I say, I love your website, but do you know you may be missing out because you're not making it easy for that supply chain person?
Yeah. So tell me about the methodology that you suggest companies use in order to get to those hot buttons.
So we live inside the Google console. I don't know anything about a client when I meet them. And so when I ask them, when I'm looking at their website, I say, why did you build that page? Who told you to say that you were this? I mean, and like you may tell me that you're a CNC machine shop or that you do CNC machining for aerospace, but if you don't tell me that you all the capabilities and the materials that you use, how do I know that? Do I have to call you? Because if you force me to call you, a younger person may not do that. They're looking for that information. So, along our journey, because I am a sales guy, but I respect marketing people. They're a lot smarter than me. And so, but people would tell me, Mark, you have to have videos and you've got to do social media and you've got to do all these things. So I built a 7-page make-believe company website around a very niche process called vacuum metallizing. And I looked at how people searched. About 900 times a month, somebody goes to Google and types in, what is the vacuum metallizing process? And around 600 to 700 times, they misspell the word metallizing with one L. So I misspelled this website it's the ugliest website you ever did, ever seen in your life. I have a big RFQ on the right-hand side, a big phone number, and I'm ranked number one in 45 countries around the world, and I've generated over $4 million in RFQs.
By misspelling a word.
What's that?
By misspelling a key word.
Well, you know what? Because that's the way people were behaving on Google.
Sure.
So if, you see, when I think about search engine optimization and the perfect website is one page. Websites don't make you money. The page makes you money that answers the query. So the first thing I do is, how are people behaving? And with this particular example of vacuum metallizing, we identified another page called plastic chrome plating. And the funny story is, the first week we built this site, we got 5 leads. Now we said, crap, I got to find someone that does vacuum metallizing that can service these people. So I found a company in upstate New York and called the owner. I said, listen, do you have an independent rep channel? We do. I said, great, I'm going to send you leads. I'll trust you. If you make a sale, just send me what you pay. I don't need any contract. And after sending him 20 leads the first month, he said, how are you doing this? And so I showed him, but I want to own this website, which I do, and I show it to people. This is my process. See, if like building a marketing campaign for me is like, layers of cake. The foundation has to be solid before I get into more advanced marketing things. Everyone's in a rush, and I slow them down. Wait a minute. Are you mirroring? I do a lot of reverse engineering. I create what I call a content matrix. I look at 5 of their competitors who have a lot more money, and I look at their pages. Maybe my client has a 20-page website, and competitor number 1 has 40 pages. And if you imagine an Excel spreadsheet, if a page is properly built, good foundation, good user experience, that's green. If it's okay, but we need some work, I call it yellow. But if you don't have a page, that's an Excel spreadsheet that's red. And after we go through this exercise, I ask my client, well, do you do that? And they said, well, yeah. I said, well, the reason you're not being found on Google is you don't have a page that says you do it. So we need to do a page. And rather than having to do everything at once, we sort of try to figure out what's the bottom of the funnel, which one of those keywords that we're looking at shows intent, that shows a big profit. And so I'll build that page, and we have a lot of software sites owner. I see, am I getting the right audience on my website? And if I'm getting the right audience, but they're not converting, well, then I've got to do the CRO things that you do on bigger sites. But the first thing, when I love working with the smaller manufacturers. And my first conversation I have is, how many new customers do you want this year? And they look at me and said, no one's ever asked me that. And usually
really? Yeah, of course you should ask that.
but usually it's less than 5 or 10 people.
Yes, and it really changes your strategy when it's 5 to 10 versus thousands or millions.
Exactly right. And that's why I'm not a demand gen guy. When I need demand gen, I call you, or I call someone that has that expertise. I'm really curious about the person that flies to Chicago for IMTS. They're one of 80,000 people at that show. And I have 3 clients exhibiting, and we're looking for 30 to 50 companies. Mm-hmm. And so many marketing people want to brag about, well, look at my click-through rate, and look at this, and look at that. Well, owners don't care about that. I'm looking for a sale, 2 sales, 3 sales. And so resetting the expectation about, what we do. And they all think it's simple. They all think, oh, yeah, just do this. It's a very difficult job. And I have no idea what's going to work. And I focus on that. And as a sales guy, I tell business owners, you've got a great marketing company there. A lot of times I go in just to help with RevOps and look at maybe doing minor adjustment, but they're bringing you the right audience. But, maybe there's something that we're missing in terms of, the bottom of the funnel kind of questions. And the Google Console sort of opens that up for us.
So why don't you think marketers have focus on bottom of the funnel? Do you think it's just not their skill set, or are they too busy thinking about awareness and top of funnel, bringing people in, but then it trails off? Or
I think you have to be, I'm very honest with clients about what I can do. I stay in my lane. I don't try to be Wendy Colby. I could never be you. I could never be some of the folks that I see in the industry. So as a sales guy, I'm very focused on intent and how do I drive? There's an urgency to get business. Marketing people that are focused on branding and doing some of these other beautiful things don't realize that if I'm a big company and I've got 2 years to get that done because we've got revenue coming in, fantastic. But if my client is saying, "Look, we need to see revenue," I just focus on understanding the needs of the company. And some of the companies, if they need something in 30 or 60 days, I tell them, "I don't want to work with you. This is a patient business. I am not a magician. This is not point, click, and buy." I make a
Yeah.
joke. If if I was selling women's shoes, man, I'm going to get thousands of clicks, and I don't care if somebody converts because there's going to be just as many people tomorrow. But how often does that Raytheon supply chain or engineer look for a new supplier? And my website better be spot on, super fast. It may be up, and so many clients I find that the website isn't secure, or they're hosting on GoDaddy, or they're spending $200, and that's fine if it
Yeah.
was a wedding for my daughter where I'm going to have 150 guests, but not when we're talking about somebody that is looking for a new supplier once every 5 years or 7 years. So
Yeah.
so you have to be ready. So again, that's just sort of the way that as we developed our company, we think about that one company that could change the family generational wealth. You
Yeah.
do a great job. They don't leave you. We know that. And even if you screw up, companies don't like to switch. They really want to give you a chance to do that. So to me, it's really about a different expectation and recognizing the incredible talent. So some marketing people think their job is just to have a great HTML or a page that's there, and that's part of it. But let's get back to where the revenue intersects and
Hmm.
make sure that they can draw that line. Um, you know, at a trade show, let's say I want to sell Raytheon, and IMTS tells me there's 100 engineers at Raytheon that have registered, and I know that they walk by my booth, and not a single one stops by me. So at the end of the trade show, you ask yourself, was that a successful trade show? Well, the owner of the trade show would say, wait a minute, I brought you 100 qualified people. That was a success. Now, the business owner may say it wasn't, but I would say, well, were the salespeople not dressed properly? Was the promotion that we had in our booth not the right one? So we have the right people. Let's keep working to figure out. There's not just one time, oh, I'm a failure. The internet works. And there's so many manufacturers that had different expectations. Just with a new website, I'm going to be rich. And that's not the way it is. It's the page, it's understanding. And I would tell you, if you don't know who's on your website, and if you don't know what I call the money page, this was something that, I meet so many companies that will tell me, I've got a man that's doing SEO. I say, great. So Wendy, tell me, what is your money page? And they say, what do you mean? Well, what page generates most of your leads? And the people will look at me, well, I'm number one for this. I said, okay, great. But does that page generate revenue? And in my example of vacuum metallizing, I built a page around a process called plastic chrome plating. And the engineer that owns the company I send the leads to said to me, well, we don't talk that way. You have to have a special kind of plastic. I said, well, there's 500 people a month that are searching for plastic chrome plating. I'm going to build a page. He was mad at me. But we got a 7-figure quote from a young engineer at Amazon Robotics that didn't know you don't talk that way. And so now he looks at me and says, okay, just go do your thing. Because when I see something on the console, I'm curious. Why would anybody search that way? So understanding the concept of the page, 90% of the leads for my make-believe company, Vacuum Metallizing, come from plastic chrome plating, not my homepage that's coming up number one. So, and that's a very interesting. I've had Boeing, Tesla, SpaceX, NASA, major companies that are looking for that. So I'm just saying, here's the Google data. You tell me what looks interesting. Let's go test it. We build a page. Oh, that wasn't good. Okay, let's build another page. I am not going to build a 100-page website at the beginning. I would rather just continue to improvement. And the same ISO 9000, the same process we use for Kaizen, for getting better, is what I do. I'm a retainer-based company. I do unlimited web development, and I want to continuously improve that website. Whether it's the money page, okay, what's the next page, and what's the next market that someone wants to go into. So that's really been our approach.
Yeah, so I really like what you said about focusing on that page and the specificity of that application and using the right terminology or the terminology that you see trending on Google Console and not just relying internally. Voice of customer, of course, could be another way to help get that feedback. But like you said, there's a lot of metrics that you can pull right there to see if that page is working, if you can be a little patient too, right?
I've been threatening to write a book, and I'm going to try to get it done this year. And the book is really about page level marketing and AI. We've been involved, and we're still in the age of search, where Google is making all the rules, and better than any, content is king, and content is really important. But in the age of AI, in the age of agents, it's not content, it's context. Mm-hmm. And so when I built this software tool called SiteSonar, which again, simply, there's a lot of reverse IP technology companies out there. And we pay a lot of data. I use a company called Clearbit, which I think is the best reverse IP data in the marketplace. But we buy data from about 30 different sources. And I'm able to uncover the name of the company, and with my tool, which I built in all kinds of enterprise level attributes, entry pages, heat maps, Hotjar, all the things that a marketing person want to know. But we're also very interested in how long and what they're there. And in my tool, I've integrated a database like Seamless AI. So I have all of the employees that work at that company. So if it looks like an engineer from a 50-person company spent 2 minutes on vacuum metallizing, I can quickly guess, well, Wendy Covey's the VP of engineering, and I built scripting so that it's a very different conversation. Wendy, I apologize for the cold call. I don't cold call people. I hate interrupting people. The reason for my call, somebody from your company was looking for something like this. I'm an engineer. Can I help you? Do you have a project that you're working on this? And it's quite amazing how many of my clients, and usually it's word of mouth, they're on your website anyway, but it's a great way to sort of identify that. And so I'm working with all of these companies in New Hampshire, and Senator Shaheen heard about me. She's on the Armed Services Committee, and she got a $2.3 million grant for the New Hampshire Aerospace Defense Export Commission. And I'm working with University of New Hampshire and their PhD students, and we're building an AI capability tool, classifier. So what we're doing, we're building this vehicle that's going to structure the data. Imagine a drone going through the factory and recognizing each machine and looking at the deep technical capabilities of that machine, and creating this tool that now is available. So you've got your website for humans, and within the website for humans, I've got this tool that is training the AI agent that's coming from NASA. And just like ZipRecruiter takes that million resumes and finds the 5 most relevant, imagine when I have 500 small manufacturing companies with structured data. NASA can now work directly with that small 10-person woman-owned AS9100 company. And instead of a human being going through that process of validating the cert, the engineer is going to be able to talk to you saying, Wendy, I think you might be able to help me, even though no one's ever done this before. So if we're successful with this, I'll have my first beta in about 9 months. But to me, that could really revolutionize and equalize the footing. Instead of private equity companies going to buy a small company because you have a contract with Raytheon, Raytheon can now work directly with you. It's a lot easier than paying a salesperson all that money to, I know a guy or know a gal, and it's
right.
Very, very inefficient.
It makes me think about another way of doing it today, which are directory listings, right? I have these certifications so I can pay to be listed in certain directories, whether those are government associated or industry associated. So what do you see the future of those in light of new initiatives like this?
Just like not everybody uses Google, when I look at the difference in 2019, it was the first time in history we had as many people under 45 in manufacturing as over 45. And when I go to trade shows, I still see the majority of people there as people over 45. Yeah. And that's good because those people control the money. They write the checks. But so I think about, how do people use? I can tell you that Thomasnet.com, that I spent 13 years of my life, They had 1.5 million registered users, and 60% of them were under 40 years old. So younger engineers, instead of going to trade shows, liked the fact that they could quickly identify that woman-owned company. But I think that model is going to change drastically, and I think they have to, we have to get out of the mode. I mean, I have 20 AI agents right now doing research for me instead of me going and doing the things that I want, right? And so you really have to use the technology. I mean, a few years before chat came out, I don't remember if it was Jarvis or Jasper, but we were using that because I've never written content. And so because I realized, in the old days, it'd cost you $1,500 for a page of content. So you're building a 20-page website. It costs $40,000, $50,000. And people say, oh, I know a guy that can do it for me for $500. And whenever I would use an engineer and I'd send the bill to my client, they'd say, oh, I could have done it cheaper. I said, well, you didn't do it. I need to get some content.
Right.
And so we were using Jarvis and with our content matrix and our content worksheet, identifying the keywords we wanted. I would go to the client and I would, copy and paste, from a competitor, and Jarvis would completely rewrite that. This is before chat. And I'm looking at this thing saying, oh my God, I wish I had this in college. But the clients were really, really amazed. And so we're just at the beginning phases of this tremendous transition that's happening. And, I try to help people understand it. You still have to play by the games that the rules that Google sets. But you better be planning. You better be planning for the day when there's a different sheriff that's making those rules. And as long as people, are older, they're going to do what they did. I mean, this is a relationship business like I have never met. And I realized it when I first started at Thomasnet. I was just walking around through these industrial parks and asking to talk to the owners and saying, how do you do things? And it's really a very relational business still. So understanding, I love your book about trust, and, I trust that you're an expert because of the way that you write that content that resonates with me. And so part of the reason that I joined 9 manufacturing associations. I go to hundreds of events every year. And I remember posting twice a day for 9 years on LinkedIn. I never got anyone to reach out to me. And now here I am 12, 13 years out, and I get 3 or 4 people every week that reach out to me because I've built my own personal brand. I call myself the manufacturing ambassador, and I enjoy as much connecting people, to the various different companies that are doing something unique and finding that out. And so that's I tell my clients, I know a bit about digital. I can help you with that strategy, but I can also help you with an old school strategy, which I think you need to have today. How do I connect you with the folks that are there? So,
and building trust, building relationships, having a unique perspective. I think those are better strategies for companies than right, like you said, the shortcut of taking a competitor's page and rewriting it and
correct.
AI. That's definitely not the way. It's not the way to win on search, right? So it's this balance of how can we use those AI tools in the right way, but still have our differentiated place in the market. And then remember that it's people talking to people, right?
Yeah. We both know Douglas Burdett. He would always talk about, marketing and sales getting together. And, one of the roles that I take is I reinforce how important marketing is to the salespeople, and you better respect these people. And I tell the marketing people, go out on a sales call and listen to what they go through. And again, the magic as salespeople, if a lead you don't like it, you better give that feedback and be very specific about what was wrong. How do they know? So it is, I love doing that with the clients, and there's a different respect, and with owners as well. Look, the marketing job is to get the right audience to the website. Not everybody fills out forms. In fact, the vacuum metallizing website, I would never have guessed this, but I get 6 phone calls for every 1 form fill on this website.
Are you serious?
It's unbelievable, because I tape record every one of these calls and I send it to my client. And when somebody says, well, how many RFQs did you get? Well, whatever that number is, there's probably 6 times more phone calls. So if it's a larger company, I try to get a dedicated phone to ring. I'm tape recording those calls that are coming in to the extent that they allow us to. And, because that's really, again, marketing is about awareness, there's branding, there's hundreds of tactics. And if I could just give a shout out to a friend of mine from Boston who wrote a book called Bullseye Marketing, a guy named Louis Gadima. And he actually talks about me on my company at 29 for a few pages, because what I loved about Louis, he talked about understanding the customer and start with people that already buy from you, that trust you, that love you, and understand why they bought from you and
Yes.
how they're behaving. That understand your foundation, the first layer of the cake. And then you've got people that can do all kinds of unbelievable things, but you have to layer on top of that foundation. And I hear so many marketing companies that talk about social media. And I say to them, I have never, I mean, social media takes a long time before you're going to do, if you're writing an ebook and putting it on a LinkedIn group of engineers, with a call to action, that's different. But so many people think, oh, let's just go and do some social media. That's like the outer of the bullseye. That's not where I would focus if I'm worried about cash flow and paying my bills.
No
And I think
kidding.
that's a mistake some marketing companies make when they're talking to a small, mid-sized company, because everybody knows, oh, social media, become a gazillionaire. Look at TikTok and all this follow up. So the reason I like Bullseye Marketing is, and I give this to every one of my clients, I said, read this. Look at the various tactics that are there. You want to ask me about something, great. But this is where we would go, walk before we run, make sure the foundation is there. And this involves even I take over hosting, WP Engine, great security, premium plugins, the stuff that isn't very sexy, but that's what you have to get done. And I tell my clients, if you hired me as a CMO and you're a 20-person company, I'm going to come to work for you. I say, okay, who's going to build your web pages? Who's doing the web development? Who's doing the content writing? Who's doing this? And they all look at me and say, well, you. So wait a minute, that's not what a chief marketing officer does. So I've tried to build a program that, takes the stuff that has to be done, and then, we make it work for the small business to help them have a fighting chance against the big companies. So
Well, one of the very first things you mentioned was that leadership often has unrealistic expectations of marketing.
yes.
Can you circle back and tell me what you say to them in response? What expectations should they have?
So the expectation they should have is that so how do they measure success? Everybody has a different measurement of that, right? And if they tell me RFQs, I'm going to talk about young people don't fill that out, so that's not a fair measurement, right? So I say, well, let's take a look, and I put my site sonar on their site for the first month. I'm curious before I do anything, because they're not marketing ready until we understand how people are searching, what they're doing, meet with them, where's the market, look at the competitor analysis, and figure out, domain authority, and where are we going to attack. And once we have that process done, which is a 60 or 90-day process, then we will set that expectation. I was with a client today. Someone signed up with me this morning, and he's a very interesting company. And he had 2 or 3 very specific customers he wanted to go after. He actually had a really, compared to some of the people I work with, his website was pretty good. It was well done, but they didn't understand any kind of authority. They had a page rank of 10. Domain authority of 10. And all their competitors were in the 25 to 30 range.
Yeah.
So for this
pretty darn
client,
low.
it was very easy to say, look, in 4 months, this is what I think we'll have at 20. It may take me 6 months, but all of the blogs that you've written and all the things that you're doing, I don't care how much you have. No one's going to find you because, you're fighting 10 pounders, not 30 pounders. So I know with this particular person, that's an expectation. He's going to just be wowed because I already know where to go. But
Yeah.
most people, I don't. And so I say to them, look, we'll have 2-week calls. I give them tools so they can see, if it's an SEO project, what keywords have we identified? Are we moving up? But I'm much more interested in the phone calls and the interested companies that are on the website. Because first I have to get the right companies that you want to sell. Then we've got to figure out what is it going to take. They're not just there to give you a credit card. So again, it all depends on, who are they trying to sell to, how complicated it is, and understanding not just a particular tactic, but what's the goal of the company? How many customers do you want? What do we need? And, and I think once we sort of figure that out, if they need demand gen or some of these other things, I'll bring in other agencies because I'm very happy that people that know what they're doing. I don't know that, and I'm not going to waste my time. It's not my passion. but helping the salespeople, writing the scripts, helping them to reach out, and helping the marketing folks with things that I see that I'm curious about. That's where the magic happens. And I love it when companies have internal resources. They're really wonderful. I'll make this funny joke. So my company, Industrial Marketing, is number one in about 20 countries around the world, and I get about 700 visits a month. And I rarely get people that fill out forms. I mean, rarely. But I'm always curious. I have a blog I wrote, 6 industrial websites to take inspiration from. And every month I get between 5 and 10 people that actually spend a few minutes reading that blog. And I have got a few RFQs, but last month there were 6 people, and my software told me Wendy Colby Manufacturing was on the site. I called, and I love talking to the receptionist. And I say, look, I'm Mark Manuel, I'm Industrial Marketing. And, somebody from your company spent 3 minutes reading this blog, and I'm just curious, are you guys thinking about doing some marketing? And they all know, yeah, we are. And I'll say, oh, may I speak with the VP of Sales and Marketing? And I just have that conversation. And then I walk them through. And last month, I signed up 2 new customers as a result of that. Not everybody's ready to move forward, but the ones that are in market. And they show me that because they spent time reading something that was very specific. So that's my money page. And I know that, and I'm very happy with that. I don't need 100 new, I can't handle it. So if you don't understand your money page, if you don't understand the page that's generating leads, if there's anything that you take from me, it's really, really get to know your sales and marketing folks and get them out there, because it's a team, that they have to see and appreciate. Why is that company on my site for 3 minutes and they didn't fill out a form? I'm really curious. There's something going on, or maybe not.
Good advice.
Maybe they're just trying to prove
Right.
they're busy to their boss and they went to my website. I don't know.
But worth a look. Mark, where can marketers learn more about you, connect with you, see SiteSonar in action? Where should they go?
So sitesonar.io is my retail software site. They can find me on LinkedIn, Mark Manuel, and of course industrial.marketing is my company website. You can check it out. Thank you for this. I really mean it. This has been a treat for me.
You bet. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate you being on today.
Thanks. Bye, Wendy.
Thanks for joining me today on Content Marketing Engineered. For show notes, including links to resources, visit truemarketing.com/podcast. While there, you can subscribe to our blog and our newsletter and order a copy of my book, Content Marketing Engineered. Also, I would love your reviews on this podcast. So please, when you get a chance, subscribe and leave me your review on your favorite podcast subscription platform. Thanks and have a great day.